All right, we're back. Day 4, page 4, picking up where we left off yesterday. I want to say a massive thank you to Coffee Quills, who raided this channel yesterday with 18 other viewers. Really did make the day quite special. So thank you for that. Now, let's start as we always start. We're going to dive straight into this, dive right into this, hey? Get those writing puns going immediately. We're going to start with chapter 1, and let's do the read-through, right? We always want to read through our work that we've done previously, make any small edits along the way, and it just puts the story firmly in our minds. You know, for me, this is first thing in the morning, 7 a.m., so let's get to it. I'm going to tell you a story, which you'll believe, and then I'll tell you the truth, which you won't. It goes like this. 3 days after I arrived in Japan, I came back to my hotel and the concierge told me that a package had been left for me. She was wrong. I wasn't expecting a package. I didn't know anyone in Japan, nor had I told anyone that I was coming here, so who could be sending me a package? But she held it out to me all the same. It was a standard brown envelope about A4 in size with no obvious markings, not even my name. I asked who'd left it, but the concierge told me that it was her colleague who had accepted the package, and so she didn't know. Needless to say, I shouldn't have taken it, but I've never been one to make good decisions. The package felt heavier than it looked, and I heard a metallic sound inside. I'd once watched a documentary about those postal bombs back in 19-whatever. They'd been filled with all sorts of scrap metal or shrapnel, and probably made the same noise just before they'd gone off. Not that I'm one of those paranoid nutcases, but I do have an ex-wife. No, said a voice in my head. Sabrina wouldn't kill me via unmarked postal bomb. She'd use FedEx. Is everything all right, sir? Asked the concierge. I don't suppose you'd open this for me. Sir? No, I didn't think she would. Nor did I get the chance to convince her because another guest, some big fat American woman, barged me out of the way in order to check herself in. My God, I thought. She could have killed us all. I took the package back to my room on the second floor, sat at the desk, and after a few minutes of silent contemplation, I opened the package and looked inside. The metallic sound had been made by one of those puzzle boxes, the kind where you have to slide around the tiles on the lid in order to solve the picture, at which point the box unlocks. There was also a slip of paper inside. Its message had been written in cursive hand and read as follows. I know why you're here, Mr. Sharp. I know what you're looking for. Be at the Greenbird Tavern at 7 p.m. P.S. Bring the puzzle box. I rushed to the window and looked down at the street. I saw pedestrians, all sorts, going about their business, but nothing stood out as odd. Nobody looking up at my window. Nobody in the adjacent building looking across into my room. I went to the door, checked the hallway. Nothing there either. Turning back to my room, nothing seemed out of place. I'd left the do not disturb sign on the door, and I knew the maid hadn't been in because the bed was still unmade from the morning. I checked the closet. Nothing appeared disturbed. My single duffel bag still had everything that it should have. Nothing out of place or missing. I rang down to reception to see if anyone had called the room today, but nobody had. I paced back and forth, staring at the opened package. Who was this person? How did they know who I was? And more importantly, how did they know why I was here? And who the hell sends a puzzle box anyway? Not Sabrina, that was for sure. She hated puzzles. And besides, she'd have written the message in blood. The alarm clock showed just after 6:15 in the evening. I knew there was a flight back to London at 7:10. If I hurried, I could make the airport in time. No, I'd spent too long getting to this point. If I'd missed this opportunity now, I'd never get it back again. But I couldn't take any chances. I called down to the concierge and had them order me a taxi to the Green Bird Tavern. Then I grabbed the puzzle box and headed out. In the back of the taxi, I examined the puzzle box. It was made of black onyx, hard and cool to the touch. The tiles on the lid were metallic, and although the picture was scrambled, it seemed to be some kind of landscape. No way to tell where, though. I tried sliding around the tiles, but I was too flustered to have any patience. How the hell had someone found me? Damn, I cursed, and the taxi driver shot me a look in the rearview mirror. I gave him a dirty look back and asked him if he had a problem. Traffic's bad, he said meekly, and then he's going to give us the reason. I told him to step on it. We moved through the streets of Shinjuku. This was the red light district, I knew. Lots of gambling, prostitution, and lowlives this side of town, the kind of people I deal with a little too much for my liking. Then again, that's how I'd met Sabrina. I turned my attention back to figuring out who was messing with me. It didn't make any sense. Nobody could have known I was coming to Japan. I'd planned everything meticulously, right down to the cover idea I'd made. Unless, and we left that open yesterday, maybe we're going to figure out what that unless is today. Carrying on. The taxi pulled up about 30 minutes after we'd left the hotel. The driver told me the Green Bird was about halfway down the bustling street to our left. I couldn't miss it. But I walked straight past the place without giving it a single glance. I wasn't about to just walk into some random bar without checking out the place first. I had no idea who or what I was dealing with, and if things went to hell like they often did, I needed to know I could get out quickly. There was an alleyway beside the tavern. It had a fire escape going to the roof and a couple of dumpsters that I could smell all the way from the street. That should not be capitalized. Okay. There was a homeless guy slumped against one of the dumpsters with a needle sticking out of his arm. Nobody seemed to care. I checked my watch. It was 5 to 7, 5 minutes before I'd been told to be here. That I was walking into a trap was obvious, but I'd come too far now. 3 years looking for it. I couldn't back off now. So again, we need to start to fill in these things that we don't know. These are going to become, these need to become more obvious and more constructed as we go. So I took a breath and walked into the tavern, into the Green Bird, and 15 people turned to watch me enter. Okay, so I don't know if that's the best last line to make it compelling enough to turn the page. Remember, all these last lines, we want them to do one job, and that is to get the reader to turn the page and find out what happens next. Okay, so let's start sketching out this fourth page. This is the way that we do it. We're using the headlight method. You're driving home at night on the country road. You just need to see that little bit further ahead, because at the moment I have no idea what this story is. We've started straight from scratch. We don't know the plot. I don't know the plot. There seems to be something going on. If we look at what I've written so far, it seems to be some kind of a spy thriller, something like that. So we're gonna, bear that in mind as we go forward. Okay, so a couple of things are obvious. We're gonna need to, just give a brief description of this, this Green Bird, the interior. Okay. We also need to figure out. We need to introduce this antagonist. We don't want to keep them too long off screen, so to speak, off page. So I want to try and introduce the antagonist on this page. Okay, so I'm going to make that the goal. It might be the last line, but that is going to be something that we see today. Introduce the antagonist. What else needs to be said here? We still want to know why, Mr. Sharp, our main character, is in Japan. So let's keep those in, and then we need our, compelling last line. And that's basically the sketch. That's all we need to do today. Okay, one page, and it's got to be something like that. Okay, so let's dive straight into it. So we know that the Green Bird is a bar, so let's just say, and we know it's in a, in this seedy part of town, and that's actually another thing that we need to figure out. So again, big thank you yesterday to Amanda Panda Sensei, who came in, lives in Japan, and said, you might want to change the place that you're setting this in, in a different part of Japan, maybe a seedier place, a dirtier place, a more gruesome place, to fit in with what you're trying to do, and we will take that information on board. So let's see, any comments in the chat of what we might, of what kind of things we might put in this Green Bird bar are welcome, but I'm just going to give a very basic overview right now. So there are two ways I can go with this. Either I'm going to write both sentences and then we'll see which one is better. So the bar was, packed full of, guys in suits. Okay, now, the last line immediately, we did say, and 15 people turned to watch me enter, or maybe like 50. That's more, if I'm going with that line, it should be more people. It's more impactful to do that. So I took a breath and walked into the Green Bird, and 50 people walked. Okay, I think I'll probably change this line, but let me just describe this place, and then we'll see what that might be. So the bar was packed full of guys in suits. They were all, talking, laughing, sealing deals, something like that. They're all talking, they're laughing. Again, we're just sketching out these sentences. They don't need to be perfect. They just want to get an overview of the page, and then we will go back and edit. That's the beauty of doing 1 page a day, why I highly recommend it, right? It's not so much work. You can pretty much get the page sketched out in about 15 to 30 minutes, and then you've got a little bit of time to edit, because I am one of those people who does like to edit as I write a book. You know, they were talking, laughing, you know, they're drinking sake, and, you know, sealing business deals. Yeah, I think someone said in the chat yesterday that, you know, Japan, in this area, Shinjuku, there are a lot of businesses, and, you know, this is the kind of thing that they do, you know, after hours. It's, you know, 7 p.m, so that's technically outside of business hours. There is the opportunity for the employees to go out and seal those deals, those business deals, those important business deals in the bars. Okay, so I got a few curious glances, you know, my way as I entered. The outsider, you know, walking in. The outsider walking in. Remember, our guy is he's not Japanese. He's there. We don't know why he's in Japan, but he's not Japanese. So if this bar is filled with, you know, locals, then the locals are all going to turn to him, you know, give him a bit of a look, and, you know, it's going to make him feel a little bit uncomfortable. Again, that adds to the suspense, which is a really good thing. Okay, so that's one way I could go. You know, basically the guy just walks in and he sees that everyone is busy, the outsider walking in, right? Or we could say that the bar was empty. The bar was empty except for one table, you know, which had, and then sitting at this table is going to be the antagonist, you know. So you came, you know, that's what they're going to say. It could be something like that. Except for one table, one booth. They have booths at the bars, right? Except for one booth, which had a woman sitting in it. Then you describe the woman, you know, and this would be the antagonist. So we can go one of two ways, or in fact we could actually combine the two. So what I've been thinking recently, again, when I'm, you know, off stream, I'm thinking all the time of what the story is going to be, how's it going to develop. And you know, since we are in Japan and this seems to be, you know, a thriller, then it would seem to me that we want this, you know, we want to utilize all the underworld that exists in Japan, and that means basically the Yakuza, which is the mafia, right? The Japanese mob. I think that would be a really good thing to use. It's an easy thing to use as well. People get it instantly. You say, you know, it's the Japanese mob. We understand, right? We get it. We get it as readers. It's going to be that kind of story. And if that's our genre, which presumably it would be if we're picking up this book in the first place, then that's gonna confirm for us that this really is the kind of story we want to find out more about. We want to read on. So okay, so we can get rid of this because we know what we're doing with that. So this is potentially where we introduce the antagonist. She's going to be sitting at a table. It's going to be a woman because, as I've been alluding to, this character, our main character, Mr. Sharp, he seems to have, you know, a problem with women. So we're going to use that to build in more conflict, more and more conflict. Conflict is the essence of story. It's the starting point for everything. You've got to have conflict. So the more you can add to that conflict, the better. So okay, that is what it's going to be. All right, so maybe this woman, you know, she's one of the, you know, the captains in the Yakuza. So let's just write that down. It had a woman sitting at the table. So a captain of the Yakuza. Obviously, our guy might not know that, but I'm just going to put that in brackets to me as a potential thing. Let's describe her. Let's say she was, good looking, you know, all the tropes, right? So it's in Japan. She was, you know, young and good looking, and let's use that as the basis for this. What happened to the music? What happened to the music? Let's just fix that 1 second. Okay, maybe need to refresh that. But yeah, so basically this, you know, this guy's walking into the bar, and we're going to use this antagonist as the main feature of this page. And going forward, you know, this is basically how chapter 1 is going to end, right? He meets the protagonist, the antagonist, and the antagonist, you know, puts forward the challenge, or the you know, basically starts the plot rolling. And then in chapter 2, our guy is going to have to figure out, you know, what's going on. Okay, the music is back, so you know, we can carry on now. All right, so where were we? Yeah. Okay, so she was young and good looking, had those, you know, maybe geisha eyes, you know, had those, you know, long lashes, had those long lashes, had those long dark lashes, you know, had those long lashes, and sticky red lips, something like that, you know, just flesh out this character, this person. Okay, she was young and good looking, had those long lashes and sticky red lips. All right, let's try that. Or maybe, yeah, okay, we can come back and we can make her better. But basically, that's it. So, okay, actually, you know what? How about this as a scene? This is just coming into my head. So this guy walks into the bar. It's packed full of these guys in suits. Maybe they are bankers, you know, something like that. This is the place where they all hang out. They're all talking, laughing, they're doing their thing. And then, you know, our guy walks in. They kind of give him a few glances, but, you know, they don't really pay much attention to him. And remember, he needs to figure out, you know, what's going on in this place. Who among these people is the person who has sent him this mysterious package and puzzle box. So, you know, he sort of tries to blend in, and then suddenly, you know, once he's got a drink and he's asked the bartender, you know, what's going on here, then in walks this Yakuza captain, this young woman, and sort of everyone in the bar, you know, goes quiet, you know, and then that's how we end this page. You know, it could be something like that. So let's try it. Let's try that. That's a pretty good idea. Any ideas in the chat? How does that sound to you? It's that classic scene of, you know, the bad guy, the powerful bad guy walks in, and the whole village just shuts down. Everybody goes quiet. You know, everyone runs for the hills, and that already implies that, you know, this person is a powerful person and going to be a worthy adversary for our protagonist. So let's have a look. Let's try this. The bar was empty except for one booth, which had a woman sitting in it. She was young, good looking, had those long lashes and sticky red lips. All right, so I pushed my way. Okay, I'm just gonna have this guy go up to the bartender, push my way through to the bar. I want to stay away from that word, as we said yesterday. So he's gonna, you know, ordered a drink from the bartender. Again, I'm just putting down ideas. Probably you don't need to describe. Again, this is a problem that, you know, I see a lot. It's that waffle. It's the filler that a lot of books suffer from, right? It's, you know, the guy goes into the bar. We just want to know what happens in the bar. We don't care that he buys, you know, some special liqueur or anything like that. So I'll probably delete these sentences, but it does help just to write them so you get a sense of the overall page and the scene direction, and then we can edit and write a bit more economically. So I pushed my way through to the bar, ordered a drink, and asked the bartender who all these guys were. They were bankers. They were bankers. This was their regular after hours meeting place. Not really a tourist spot. Yeah, something like that. Because this guy's just turned up into a place. He's obviously not from town, not an in-towner. Maybe he's here on outside business. These guys could possibly think that, but it's something like that. Okay, not really a tourist spot. She told me, as a bit of a threat, right? So this bartender, not really. Maybe it's a he, right? Bartender. Not really a tourist spot. Not really a tourist spot. He told me with something in his voice, with a measure of just something in his voice that says you really shouldn't be here, right? Not really a tourist spot. He told me with a measure of warning, right? With a measure of warning in his voice. Okay, so that line is simply just there. I'm just trying to build a little bit more suspense. We know something's going to happen here, and that's the kind of thing. There's a warning in his voice, like, mate, you shouldn't be here, and that's just building on from what we had previously. This guy is sort of checking out the landscape. He's checked the perimeter. He knows that he has an alleyway to the side of this tavern, that if he needs to get out, maybe he's going to go that way. So let's keep pushing him towards some kind of conclusion. So the bar was packed full of guys in suits. They were all talking, laughing, drinking sake, and sealing business deals. I got a few curious glances my way as I entered. The outsider walking in. The local... yeah. Okay. I had that effect. Remember, this is this guy's... this is how this guy talks. We know that he's a bit of a loner. He's a bit of a... he's a prickly character. I had that effect on people. All right. So this is his sort of, kind of sharp sense of humor, and it's coming in, So we're staying true to the character. Again, if I sort of built this character up as this prickly character, bad with, bad attitude, but knows, he's got some jokes, and he's smart. It seems to be smart. He knows how to handle himself. He's that character. He's that kind of protagonist. So I've got to, keep that going. It's one of the most important things you can do is keep that character consistent on every page of the novel, right? So, and that makes it a lot easier to write as well. So, which one are we going to go with? Potentially, we'll go with this idea that the bar is initially it's packed full of guys in suits, and then this guy walks in, and then suddenly, after 5 minutes of trying to figure out who's there, then we meet this antagonist, this mysterious woman, potentially a captain of the Yakuza, and she's going to invite him to sit down with her at the table, and then the story is really going to unfold from there, and we're going to have to figure out what that story is. But that's basically the idea. So we can get rid of this sketch point because we've sort of done that. So if this is going to this is going to go obviously before this. So let's put that up here, and then we'll keep going. Okay, how's this shaping up, guys? You get the idea of what I'm trying to do with this page? Let me know in the chat. Okay, So probably we're not going to find out why Mr. Sharp is in Japan just quite yet. And we need the compelling last line, which is going to be something like, okay, so if this woman, if this mysterious woman is the one who called him, then she's going to say, something like, I have an offer for you. I have an offer for you. Something like that. It's just going to be that line, and then as the reader, you're going to be the reader is going to be annoyed at that line, because that's right, the last line on the page. You've got to find out, you've got to turn the page. What is the offer? What is this story? So at the very least, we're going to have them turn the page. Obviously, it's not going to be that exact line. That's just the idea. Okay, so let's just put this right at the bottom, and we kind of know now where this is going to go, where this page finishes. Okay, cool. So we are pretty much ready to go and fill out the rest. I do want to say that someone did send me a great piece yesterday of Japanese folklore, and it's something that I've been thinking about. I think I know how to turn it into a good little piece of dialogue, so I'm going to show you that in a second. Before I do, I think that's the kind of thing that this woman is going to say, because if you're going to introduce an antagonist, you want to do it in a very interesting way. They've got to talk really, in an interesting way. And it can't just be like, oh, hello. That's just too boring, right? So if this person is a captain of the Yakuza, then she's got to be a very interesting, a very commanding character. So let's just write that bit in. So perhaps okay. This is how it goes. Okay. Leave, right? So this woman is going to say something like leave, and then everyone in the bar, scramble to get out. Okay, you'll see how this comes together in a second. I've got an idea for this. Everyone in the bar scrambled to get out as quickly as possible. Okay, and this is something like that. Maybe she doesn't say leave. Maybe she just says, maybe she sort of like she rings a bell, or she has some sort of device that just makes a sound. And then there was a scene like that in the Sherlock Holmes, I think it's the second film with Robert Downey Jr., where Moriarty, he just sort of rings the bell, and everyone in the restaurant leaves, right? Because he's so powerful. They all know who he is there, and so it could be something like that. So rings a bell, and again, just sort of sketching this out, putting it in brackets. And like yesterday, all of these things will be resolved soon. So, okay, so he walks into the bar. The bar was packed full of guys in suits. They were all talking, laughing, drinking second-seating business deals. I got a few curious glances my way as I entered. I had that effect. Apparently, I had that effect on people. It's something like that. Yeah. Apparently, I had that effect on people. I pushed my way through to the bar, ordered a drink, and asked the bartender who all these guys were. Bankers, he told me. Again, we want to try and eliminate, this is a pro tip that I've got so many times from editors, is that you want to avoid using the verb to be, right? So any version of the verb to be, you want to get rid of it. So what was I going to say? Yeah, bankers, he told me. Bankers told me this was their regular after-hours meeting place. Not really a tourist spot, he said. So this can be dialogue. Not really a tourist spot, he said, with a measure of warning in his voice. Okay, so we can put that on another line. Okay. So now our guy, our protagonist, obviously he's gonna, be looking around the bar. He's gonna be trying to take in, he's assessing the situation. He's trying to figure out which of these guys is the guy who called him in. And keep in mind, this is again something that you need to do. You always need to keep in mind is the way that your character reacts, the way that he acts in any situation informs the reader, the audience, about his character. So the things that this guy notices, you know, if he looks at a person and he's looking at the, you know, the cut of that person's suit, you know, the shoes that that woman is wearing, if he's noticing these tiny details, then obviously he's an observant guy. Okay, great. But if he's also noticing, you know, that the suit has a slight bulge on the left side, and that could be a gun, that also informs you without, you know, being so overtly obvious. It informs you that this guy, he has some experience either in law enforcement, or he is some kind of, you know, assassin, or he has that experience. So whatever this guy now tells us, you know, how he describes the place and everyone in it, that informs us about him, and it just builds up, you know, his skill set. So let's do that. So I scoured the room, something like that. I scoured it. Is that how you spell it? I scoured the room. I scoured the room, taking in each person and which of them might be my mystery caller, you know, my mystery caller. There was a guy in, you know, one of the far booths, sitting alone. You know what? As I write this, I'm thinking maybe it'd be better if he walks into the bar and it's completely empty, and instead we just have him meet the antagonist straight away. It might be better doing that. I scoured the room, taking in each person, and what they were wearing. Okay, how about this? And what they were wearing. In my experience, forgetting my experience, you can tell a lot about a person. This is again that cool thing we all love, you know, the expert telling us how to do his job. So yeah, I scoured the room, taking in each person what they were wearing. You can learn a lot about a person just by their dress. Something like that, maybe. Okay, there was a guy. Let's put that over here. There's a guy sitting alone. So okay, he was wearing a suit of an expensive suit, something like this, right? And I know that this page is going to need a lot of work in a second, but I'm just trying to get to the end of it. He was wearing an expensive suit. It's going to be so much easier to edit, but let's keep going. Thing is, always try and keep going. Don't stop, even if you know that what you're writing is total crap. It doesn't matter. Just sketch out the page and then we can do it. And actually, there's not so much left to do before we can start to edit. Okay, he was wearing an expensive suit. One of us was sitting alone. He was wearing an expensive suit and seemed to be brooding. Okay. Another guy was was staring at me from the far corner, but I think he just didn't like me, something like that maybe. I think he just didn't like me. Again, we'll come back. We're gonna do these things. You'll see this all gets turned around. All these sentences that just are crap are going to be edited, and it all comes together. It always comes together. The fact is, you just have to keep going. So, okay, so the bar was packed full of guys. Let me do a bit more about this woman. Because I kind of have a little bit better idea of this. So the bar was empty. Okay, we don't know about that bit, but which had a woman sitting in it. She was young and good-looking, had those long lashes and sticky red lips. Okay. I don't know why, but but I felt drawn to her. Something like that. Okay. So okay, at a certain point, I took the seat opposite her. Okay, so you're on time. Okay, so this is where I want to bring in the this great little bit of this great little story that someone directed me to. It's a Japanese folk tale, and I just thought, reading it, this has got to be the way that the antagonist introduces themselves in such a powerful way. So I'm going to just show you guys this this piece that I was sent. This is just great. So the farmer and the tanuki, right? In Japanese folklore, there's a tale called Kachi Kachiyama, which translates as Firecrackle Mountain. Okay, whatever. The story starts here. Okay, one day there was an old farmer whose fields were ransacked each night by a malicious tanuki. Finally fed up, the farmer tried to catch the sneaky tanuki but had no luck. He decided to lay traps and after much persistence managed to catch the tanuki, whereupon he took him home, tied him up and hung him from the ceiling. By the way, I think a tanuki is basically like a raccoon. Just so that you guys know, you can see a little picture here of what it might look like. But okay, before he, the farmer, headed out to work the next day, the farmer told his wife not to untie the tanuki because he was making tanuki soup for their dinner that night. The old woman was doing her chores and pounding some barley when the crafty tanuki offered to help her. At first she refused, knowing that her husband would be angry if she didn't follow his instructions. The tanuki continued to plead with her though, saying how sore his legs were and how uncomfortable it was being hung upside down. The woman was very kindly, and so she finally relented, thinking it would be nice to have some help with her chores. Once released, the tanuki grabbed the woman's pestle, like a pestle and mortar, grabbed the woman's pestle and proceeded to kill her and cut her up into pieces. He then made her into soup and shape-shifted, to take on her form. As the farmer was returning home, he felt very happy that the tanuki could no longer destroy all his hard work. When he arrived at the cottage, his wife, i.e. the tanuki in disguise, served him soup, and as he was about to eat it, the tanuki transformed back into its own form and declared that he was a wife-eater and warned him to watch out for the bones in his kitchen. Okay, now then the dreadful tanuki, he laughs and runs off into the night, and the horrified farmer, he wailed and cried as he realizes what had happened. Okay, now the story goes on from there, but that first bit, that's quite a chilling story, and I just thought that reading that, there are many like sort of subtle subtext possibilities there, right? So here are a couple, right? We know that in our story that we're writing, we have this mysterious person who has sent a package to our protagonist, and the protagonist says that and the antagonist tells him, I know why you're here, Mr. Sharp, be at the Greenbird Tavern. She's giving him instructions, and we see that in this story the old woman was given specific instructions. Do not untie the tanuki, right? That's what the farmer told his wife, and she did it. She did do it. She untied the tanuki. She didn't listen, and what happened? She got killed for it, basically, right? Everything went wrong. It's those kind of subtextual things that are going to be great in a piece of dialogue. So I think it would be great. I was thinking it'd be great if when our two protagonist and antagonist meet each other, which they're about to now in our story, maybe this is the story that our antagonist, starts to tell. So with that in mind, I'm gonna go ahead and just write this little bit. Okay, so it's a very Tarantino kind of a thing to do. One character just starts rambling on about something that seems to be very unrelated to anything, and then it all makes sense when the subtext is given. So let's write this bit of dialogue in. So it was a folk tale, that, right? So I'm going to say that this woman, this antagonist, there is a story we tell children. A story we tell children about a troublesome tanuki. Obviously, I'm not going to write that entire story out. I'm just going to try and make it very, very. I'm just going to try and condense it. Okay, I want it to be maybe one paragraph, possibly, like 5 or 6 lines of just this antagonist speaking, and then and that's how they introduce themselves. Because someone who leads off with this sort of very, very weird story, and the story has a kind of maliciousness undertone to it. By doing that, I don't need to describe the character physically necessarily. I don't need to tell the reader, oh, this is a bad guy, and this is a powerful opponent, right? That's all going to come through in the dialogue, and that's something that we should all try and do as authors, is try and let the characters and their actions speak for themselves. Okay, so in other words, don't tell me. It's the show don't tell rule. Don't tell me that someone is a powerful, dangerous guy who can handle herself in a fight. Show me her taking down 5 guys in an alleyway who have tried to assault her. Right? That's how you do it. So too here we're going to do that same thing. So there's a story we tell children about a troublesome tanuki. Who plagued an old farmer for days on end. Okay, with something like that, right? Okay. One day, the farmer laid a trap and caught the tanuki. Okay, caught the tanuki. He tied the tanuki up, and told his wife not to untie it before he got back from the market, where he was going to buy, not vegetables. When he got back from the market, whereupon he would make a soup. Okay, something like that. So let's see here. One day, the farmer laid a trap and caught the tanuki. He tied the tanuki up and told his wife not to untie it before he got back from the market, whereupon he would make a soup. Cry and cry, did the tanuki, to be let free. The farmer's wife was kind and took pity on it. Okay, took pity on it, and released the tanuki and untied the tanuki. Oh, released the tanuki, whatever. But no sooner did she untie it, did the tanuki kill her and chop her into and chop her, you know, into pieces and make a stew. And make a stew out of her. Now that story said that the tanuki has, you know, shape-shifting abilities in in Japanese folklore. So the tanuki then, you know, shape-shifted into the form of the farmer's wife, and when the farmer came home, the tanuki fed him the soup. Fed him the soup. Okay, that's basically the story. Obviously, I'm gonna, you know, we'll go back and we'll edit that to make it, you know, into the voice of this antagonist, right? Tanuki fed him the soup. So what would be a great line here is what would be a great thing to have here is, so our guy, our Mr. Sharp, he sits down, he takes the seat opposite this, you know, captain of the Yakuza, this powerful antagonist, this woman, and this woman immediately goes into this long story about a tanuki, you know, about a tanuki killing a farmer's wife, and then what would be great is if, you know, someone then comes and serves some soup to both of them, and she just says, you know, enjoy, you know, something like that, you know, go ahead, you know, eat it, something like that. Go ahead. At this point, so maybe this green bird, you know, maybe this green bird tavern is not at a tavern. Can you have, you know, food being served at a tavern? Maybe. Otherwise, I was just thinking maybe we turn this place into a restaurant, and this story can, you know, work pretty well there. But basically, okay. So one second. At this point, a waiter came by and put 2 bowls of soup. This is a very heavy-handed way of describing what I mean, but I'm just putting it down so you guys can see how this kind of a chapter, this kind of scene comes together. At this point, a waiter came by and put 2 bowls of soup in front of us. The woman smiled at me. Put 2 bowls of soup in front of us. The woman smiled at me. Go ahead, she said. Okay, now that is the kind of last line we want on this page, right? Because think about it. We have this guy. Another good thing about this story was that it involved a wife. Okay, and our protagonist, he has an ex-wife. Okay, he has an ex-wife. But can you imagine if he sits down and, you know, he hears this story, and you know, and this woman, clearly a, you know, part of the mafia, she says, you know, the tanuki cut up the farmer's wife and put her in a soup, and then fed it to the guy, to the farmer, and then 2 bowls of soup are served, and the woman, you know, and then the woman sort of, you know, smiles at our protagonist and says, you know, go ahead. That implies that potentially he is just about to eat his wife, or the same thing has happened. Now, whether or not that is the case, we will find out. So, you know, I like that idea. I think that's a really cool scene. That's a great way of introducing this antagonist. So thank you so much for sending in that Japanese folktale. That was, you know, I had a list, I had a whole bunch of them, and that's the one that stood out to me. And as soon as I read it, I thought, this is something so unusual. So I think it would actually even be better. Maybe, yeah, okay. So maybe we're going to turn this into a restaurant. So it is actually a bit more like that Sherlock Holmes scene. Okay, I have an idea. So okay, yeah, I think we're gonna do that. I mean, this wasn't so bad, but I think it's just gonna be better if maybe we change this whole idea from, instead of a Greenbird bar, that it's you know, it's kind of just maybe like a closed down restaurant or something like that. You know, a restaurant, and then this woman, this Yakuza mob, is using it as sort of a headquarters for something. So there was okay, the place was empty. It was empty except for one table in the middle of the room. In the middle of the room, a woman looked up at me as I entered. Okay, here we go. So this is how I think we do this scene. So you see, I started with a bar, you know, because that's what I thought this place might be yesterday, just, you know, a bar. And now, just because I've read this story and I want to include the soup, I'm going to change this location to a place where you could potentially get some soup, because I just think that this scene is going to be a good one. So actually, this is you know, this is a really great example of, you know, you're writing a novel, you're pantsing your way through it, you really don't know what's going to happen. You have to be prepared to go back and make changes to the things that are already there. So, you know, don't be afraid to do that. It's all part of the process, and, you know, it may well change again in a few days' time. So here we go. The place was empty, so this is a restaurant now, except for one table in the middle of the room. So one table in the middle of the room. A woman looked up at me. The woman sitting at it. The woman sitting at it, looked up at me as I entered. So now we can describe her, right? She was young and good looking, right? She was young and good looking, had those long lashes and sticky red lips. She smiled. Okay. So we know, oh sorry, so actually, yeah, so she's going to be a captain of the Yakuza, something like that. I'll leave that there. Okay, so this guy walks into the restaurant, he sees this, it's empty except for one table. This woman, this good-looking young woman, looks up at him, and, you know, she gives him that smile, right? She gives him that evil grin, and he's gonna think, I should have run right then, right? I should have, you know, run straight out of there, you know, but like I said, I've never been one to make good decisions. Maybe you don't even need that. I should have run right then. I should have run straight out of there. I might have done too if two big guys in suits. Remember, if she's a captain of the Yakuza, she probably has, you know, bodyguards. She travels heavy, so to speak. I might have done two if so you can't really say that. I can't okay, just put it in for now. So if two big guys in suits hadn't stepped up behind me and blocked the entrance. Okay. So this woman she said be at the Greenbird at 7 p.m. right? And this guy is basically there at 7 p.m. So maybe she checks her watch. Okay. The woman checked her watch and smiled. 7 p.m. 7 p.m. 7 p.m. She said something like that. So she's, maybe she doesn't even need to say that. Maybe that's why she smiles. Okay, so we don't need this line. We don't need this line. Okay, the woman checked her watch and smiled. Actually, maybe you don't need that line. Right. Checked the watch and smiled. She motioned to the seat opposite her, and it wasn't really a question now, was it? Was it? Because obviously, she's got the bodyguards there. So I took the seat, but said nothing. My heart was pounding. It's something like this. Clumsy, I know this is clumsy, but it's getting better. My heart was like a jackhammer. Okay, I'm using a bad phrase, whatever, just again, get it down. We tell children, said the woman. Her voice was almost childlike. It's, if anyone has seen as much anime as me, I'd be surprised, but B, what I'm thinking is something like that you generally see. You see, these really bad guys who have very soft, mellifluous voices, musical voices, soft voices, and it just makes them so much more creepy. For that, it's like those horror movies where it's like a killer doll. It's a Chucky film, and the doll has the monster has such a childlike voice or childlike quality, and that just makes it so much more scary. So again, here we go. There is a story we tell children, said the woman. Her voice. Again, I'm trying to eliminate as many of those to be verbs. So instead of saying her voice was almost childlike, her voice, sounded. Her voice sounded like a child. Again, it's something like that. Her voice sounded like a child. There's a story tell the woman. Story tell children, said the woman. Her voice sounded like a child about a troublesome tanuki. Okay, perfect. Isn't this perfect? About a troublesome tanuki. So now this troublesome tanuki, this is the subtext in my mind. This is the subtext of that line. A troublesome tanuki, that is our protagonist, Mr. Sharp, right? He is the troublesome tanuki. He is plaguing the old farmer, i.e. this, Yakuza captain, who knows why he's here. You guys following me, right? This is why this is such a great thing to do. You take a story, some kind of very interesting story like this Tanuki story, which I was, very happily sent yesterday, happily received yesterday, and you can start to make connections, subtextual connections very quickly. You'd be surprised how effortless it is. It pretty much works with any story. I could put in the story about Cinderella here, and I guarantee there would be parables to draw that would sound so well thought out that any reader would be convinced that I'd spent days and days thinking about it. But in actual fact, any kind of story like this, you can always twist and turn and find ways of just twisting the meaning into something that suits your story and makes for compelling dialogue. Interesting dialogue is compelling dialogue in general. So there's a story we tell children, said the woman. Her voice sounded like a child. and her voice sounded like, said the woman, and her voice, okay, so that might need work because you're saying children and then child. We'll get to that. About a troublesome tanuki who plagued an old farmer for days on end. We don't need old farmer. She probably wouldn't say old farmer simply because if she is the farmer in this, you know, in the parable, in the real meaning, in the subtext, then she's not going to say old. About a troublesome tanuki who plagued the farmer for days on end. One day the farmer laid a trap and caught the tanuki, i.e. this is what she's done to our protagonist. Get that? Look at that. She sent the package and, you know, caught this tanuki, our character Mr. Sharp. So one day the farmer laid a trap and caught the tanuki. He tied the tanuki up and told his wife not to untie it before he got back from the market, and made them a soup. Before he got back from the market, and made a soup. Okay, so he tied up the tanuki and told his wife not to untie it before he got back from the market, and made a soup. Cry and cry did the tanuki to be let free. The farmer's wife. Now the farmer's wife was again. So we've got to get this voice of the. How does this woman speak? Because this whole thing needs to be written in her voice, in our Yakuza captain's voice. So, you know, cry and cry did the tanuki to be let free. The farmer's wife was kind and took pity on the tanuki and took pity on it. But yeah, so we don't need that bit because we're going to say. But no sooner did she untie it, did the tanuki kill her and chop her into pieces and make a soup out of her. The tanuki then shapeshifted into the form of the farmer's wife, and when the farmer came home, the tanuki fed him the soup. Okay. A simple joke here from our guy. Remember, our protagonist, he has this sort of quick wit. He's Mr. Sharp. So he's going to say, you know, that's a children's story. That could be a joke that we use. So, you know, again, he's in this bad situation, clearly, so he's going to want to... he's not going to want to show his fear. He's too arrogant for that. So, you know, this is the kind of thing that we need. The place was empty except for one table in the middle of the room. The woman sitting at it looked up at me as I entered. She was young and good-looking, had those long lashes and sticky red lips. She smiled at me. She smiled. I should have run straight out of there. But okay, so this is a really interesting point here. So in any novel, any thriller, you need to have this kind of up and down, and you know, always the story should be going up and down. So the character says, I wanted to do this, but then this happened and then I couldn't do it, you know, and you're going up and down constantly, right? So nothing is ever easy. There's always a twist and a turn, not just in the plot in terms of its macro composition, not in terms of the plot points, but also just on the page, in a conversation even. You've got to have that back and forth going, because that's what conflict is. You need to add that conflict to every single part of the novel, of your novel. So I should have run straight out of there. But two big guys, but two bruisers, let's call them, but two bruisers in black suits, in cheap black suits, I think sounds better. But two bruisers in cheap black suits stepped up behind me and blocked the entrance. All right, so the woman checked her watch and smiled her red lips. I just want to emphasize some part of her so we get this image in our mind. The woman checked her watch and smiled her red lips. She motioned to the seat opposite her, and it wasn't really a question. And it wasn't. Yeah, she motioned to the seat opposite her, and it wasn't really a question. Okay, so he needs to then, have some sort of, line about, some thought. Yeah, okay, so we, I glanced at the fire door. This was his, very brief reconnaissance from before. I glanced at the fire door on the far right of the room, on the far right of the room, in the fire door in the far right of the room. I wasn't as big as these bruises behind me, but I was sure as hell faster. I thought about the homeless guy. The homeless guy slumped by the dumpster. This is, we had this before. We said there was a homeless guy slumped against one of the dumpsters. Slumped against one of the dumpsters. Maybe he slumped right outside the fire door. Right. I bet these two bruisers would trip over. So if he runs out of this fire door, right, he's gonna, because he knows that there's a homeless guy, slumped against it, he's gonna rush out of the fire door. He's gonna jump over the homeless guy who he knows is already there, and these two bruisers who potentially chase him and don't have that information, maybe they stumble over the homeless guy, or at least that's what he's thinking. Whether it happens or not, whatever, but it's nice to know that he's used that reconnaissance that he left before. We can see how his mind works, our protagonist, Mr. Sharp. We can see him using his skills, his knowledge in such a situation. So I glanced at the fire door in the far right of the room. I might not have been, again, trying to get rid of the to be verbs. I might not have been as big as those bruises, as these bruises behind me. I'm not sure, as the bruises behind me, but I was sure as hell faster. I thought about the homeless guy slumped against the dumpster. No doubt these two would trip over him if they tried to chase me. Okay, so he's thinking about that. That's pretty good. Okay. Okay, so I took the seat. Okay, so now I need to take the seat. Again, we'll come back and just, that line obviously doesn't just, you can't just stick, it doesn't just read right, going from that. No doubt these two would trip over him if they tried to chase me. Okay, so I took the seat, but said nothing. My heart was like a jackhammer. There's a story we tell children, said the woman. Okay, interesting point here. This woman is potentially Japanese, right? She's a Yakuza captain, so obviously, yeah, she's going to be Japanese. The question now is, what language is she speaking? So is she going to tell this story in Japanese, or is she going to tell it in English? Obviously, it's going to be written in English because we, the audience, are an English-speaking audience. So that needs to be explained, said the woman. Her voice sounded like a child. She was speaking English, said the woman. She said, or maybe she's speaking Japanese because she knows that Mr. Sharp can speak Japanese too, said the woman. Right. Speaking in Japanese, like she knew I could understand her. And that just again lends this idea that this woman really does know all about Mr. Sharp. She holds all the cards. She's really got all the power in this situation. So yeah, I quite like that. You know, she did say before, "I know why you're here, Mr. Sharp," in that note that she sent, and now we're just reinforcing that idea. So there's a story we tell children, said the woman, speaking in Japanese like she knew I could understand her. About a troublesome tanuki who plagued a farmer for days on end. One day the farmer laid a trap and caught the tanuki. He tied the tanuki up and told his wife not to untie it before he got back from the market and made a soup. Crying did the tanuki to be let free. Okay, the farmer's wife was kind and took pity on it, but no sooner did she untie it did the tanuki kill her and chop her into pieces and make a soup out of her. The tanuki then shape-shifted into the form of the farmer's wife, and when the farmer came home, the tanuki fed him the soup. Okay. Okay, so now, again, if we're in a restaurant, then either the waiter comes out, serves the soup. Okay, let's put that in, or the soup had already been served. I think probably, though, it's better like this. Fed him the soup. She clicked, she snapped her fingers. And from the kitchen came a waiter. From the kitchen came a waiter and put 2 bowls of soup in front of us. The woman smiled at me, go ahead, she said. Something like that, okay? So, okay, what do you guys think about that so far? I think that's basically what I kind of want to do with this. So she's a captain of the Yakuza. I should have run straight out there, but the two bruisers in cheap black suits. I should have run out of there. Run straight out of there. But 2 bruisers in cheap black suits stepped up behind me and blocked the entrance. Okay. So this is a trap, right? He'd said before this is going to be a trap. So we don't need this line. Obviously this line isn't right now. So I took a breath and walked into the green bird, and straight into a trap. Okay, that's a compelling last line because you want to find out what's going to happen to him. The place was empty except for one table in the middle of the room. One table in the middle of the room. The woman sitting at it looked up at me as I entered. She was young and good looking, had those long lashes and sticky red lips. She smiled. I should have run straight out of there. But 2 bruisers in cheap black suits stepped up behind me and blocked the entrance. The woman checked her watch and smiled her red lips. She motioned to the seat opposite her, and it really wasn't a question. I glanced at the fire door in the far right of the room. I might not have been as big as the bruisers behind me, but I was sure as hell faster. I thought about the homeless guy slumped against the dumpster. No doubt these 2 would trip over him if they tried to chase me. I like that bit. That's a good bit. If they tried to chase me. Okay. Well, maybe we could have here that, the waiter comes out of the kitchen and serves 2 bowls of soup to the table. Then, the antagonist, this woman, says, "Have a seat." They both start eating the soup, and the woman tells the story, and then, obviously this guy, our protagonist, Mr. Sharp, he gulps. he's suddenly got the image of potentially he's just ate his wife, his ex-wife Sabrina. It could be something like that. But either way, we don't really need all of this bit that we had before. And we don't need that bit. So let's just delete this. But isn't this such a much better scene than we had before? Much more interesting scene. Okay, so this is, I like this. I like where this is going. So okay, so our guy, he has this joke. That's a children's story. Maybe he glances at the. I glanced at the fire door again, so we know what he's thinking. Okay, this is a very good technique to use. Something that you see a lot in novels, especially thriller novels. You say once the first time someone observes something. For instance, here with the fire door in the far right of the room, and then we explain, and then it's explained why he's looking there and what he's thinking. Okay, so he glanced at the fire door in order to bring to mind his escape route, right? So then later on, if he says, I glanced at the fire door again, that tells us as the reader that we know what he's thinking, okay? But we don't have to explain it. The audience figures that out. They put the pieces together, and that's what we all love to do. We all like to feel really smart, like we're figuring things out along with the protagonist. We know what's going on. So she, snapped her finger. Maybe she rings the bell like Moriarty did in order to summon the waiter. Snapping the fingers might not be loud enough, but whatever. That can be put in brackets as something to maybe edit tomorrow. I do just want to finish this page. We've got what, like 5 lines? Not even that. 4 lines. 4 lines, and we're at the end of the page. That's a children's story. That's a children's story, I said. That's his bit of quick wit. That's a children's story, I said. But inside, my heart was pounding. So let's take out the pounding from before. So he's admitting to us, that he's really a bit panicked at this point. I glance at the fire door again. That's a children's story, I said, but inside my heart, but we don't need that. But my heart was pounding. Okay, so now, the woman smiled again. And took a spoon of soup. Okay. Maybe that's a children's story, I said. I'm telling you. I'm just thinking how we can bring this story together. Again, when you're writing dialogue, you want to keep it short and snappy. And when I say short, I don't necessarily mean that you can't have a big chunk of prose. One person says one big thing. What I mean by dialogue being short is that the amount of exchanges that you have shouldn't be so many. There shouldn't be so much back and forth. There should be 10 exchanges, something like that, rather than 50, 60 lines of just these two characters going back and forth. In general, right? It's just, if you can be more economic, it lends greater urgency to the scene. And you can see this, go back and reread so many of those famous scenes that you love in novels where there's supposedly a lot of dialogue. Go back and actually see how many back and forths there are. There actually aren't that many. In my experience, it never exceeds, even in the longest scenes, it generally doesn't go past 33 lines. And yeah, I'm being specific because I actually have counted these out. It's very rare that you find a scene where there are 33, the characters go back and forth. Person A says line 1, person B says line 2, person A says line 3. Like that, you don't get 30, you don't really find that there's more than about 30 to 33 of those lines ever. I'm not saying that's a rule, I'm just saying that's something that I've observed, and do with that what you will. So yeah, and even taking something like I've got here on my desk, a screenplay, The Hateful Eight by Tarantino, which is he's known for his dialogue, right? And this is a screenplay, so it's full of dialogue. Even in here, look at the scenes, and you'll see that actually the amount of back and forth is very limited, and you get out to you want to move on, and get to the next interesting point. Be economic, and then move on. All right. So she snapped her fingers or rings a bell, something like that. / rings a bell. We'll work that out. Or maybe she sends a text on her phone. That's more, that's maybe more in keeping with today's age. I don't know. Maybe the waiter just comes out, and from the kitchen came a waiter. She snapped her finger, and from the kitchen came a waiter who put 2 bowls of soup in front of us. The woman smiled at me. "Go ahead," she said. I glanced at the fire door again. "That's a children's story?" I asked her, but my heart was pounding. But instead of my heart was pounding, but my feet. I once heard there's a great book on body language, What Every Body Is Saying. Yeah, get that title? What Every Body Is Saying. And it said that feet are the most honest part of the body. So if you watch children sitting in their high chair, when they want to leave the table, you see them, they stretch out their feet in the direction that they want to go. So here too, we can, this guy's trying to play it cool, but his tell, like a poker tell, that little leak of information that really reveals what he's thinking, what he's feeling, betrays him, is going to come out through his feet. So that's a children's story, I asked her, but my feet were dancing. We're dancing, but my feet were dancing under the table. I don't know. So it's something like that. As in, the feet are telling him, let's go. It's time to go. Okay. Right. So the woman smiled at me. Okay, there's too many smiles here. The woman took a spoon of soup and licked her lips. I guess she didn't appreciate my charms. Okay, and then she's going to introduce. I think she's just going to introduce herself, basically. So let's just say. So my name is. Okay, again, we need a name. What's a good name? What's a good Japanese? Guys in the chat, come on, help me out here. What is a good name? We need it to be a strong. Probably, if she's a captain of the Yakuza, it's got to be a Japanese name. So something, long-standing, something that has, Matsumoto, Shiratori. Let's see. Okay, let's go with Matsumoto again, just as a placeholder. I'll tell you what. Let me just do a quick search. Again, you shouldn't do this. I'm breaking a rule here. Wherever possible, don't go and do research on writing while you are writing. But let me just go for a list of common Japanese names. Okay, there we go. I'll just take the first. Okay, that one. For women, yeah, fine. Kyuri Matsumoto. That's what we are. That's what I'm going to go with. How do I get back here? Okay. My name is Kyuri Matsumoto, and this introduction has got to be, she delivers this line with, punch. It's going to be that scene in the movie where the camera just suddenly zooms in on her face. My name is Kyori Matsumoto, Yakuza captain. Now, I know there are, there are a number of different Yakuza captains. The mafia is made up of these, different captains. I know there are a number of different ones. I don't know how many, but I remember there's a hierarchy to the whole thing. So my name is Kira Matsumoto, Yakuza captain, let's just say 18. And we want to, she's got to deliver this line in a very cool way, I'm going to use the word Tarantino-esque, but you know what I mean. So it's got to be something like Yakuza Captain 18, right? And she who lays claim, lays claim to the to this part of Japan. What did we say it was? Where were we here? Was it Shinjuku? Yeah, Shinjuku, right? Okay, Shinjuku. Am I saying that right? Where are all my Japanese viewers? Where are they? Shinjuku. Yeah. Okay. And someone said maybe yesterday we should be in Kabukicho. But okay, so it's something like this. My name is Kurina Matsumoto, Yakuza Captain 18, and she lays claim to the Shinjuku. Let's just put this in Shinjuku district, of the great city Japan. It's something like that. And then our guy says, okay, 1 second. Why has the music gone off again? Let's just put that on. How long have we been going for here? Wow, we are already at the 90-minute mark. You remember day one, I think we wrapped up in under an hour. So you can see as this plot goes on, it gets a little bit more complicated, a little bit harder to come up with a continuing story. Developing the story is definitely tricky, and especially when you are like me, making it up as you go along. But at a certain point, hopefully, over the weekend, we're live Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. But over the weekend, I'm going to be able to have a little bit more of a think on what might work with this story, and then hopefully on Monday morning, I'll have some really great ideas of what we might be able to do in the week coming. Okay, music is back on, and that just helps me, think a bit. That sort of, white noise in the background. Okay, that's a children's story. Okay, my name is Kuri Matsumoto, Yakuza Captain 18, and she who lays claim to the 5th ward. I don't know if this is, correct, but it doesn't matter. 5th ward. Here's claim to the 5th district, Shinjuku. District or ward? I think they're wards, but I'll put district in because that's something I understand. 5th district, Shinjuku of the great city. Country is Japan. Of the great city Tokyo. Of the great city Tokyo. It's something like that. Okay, and then this guy says, something cheeky, just to, reinforce his character of, he's a prickly character, but he's got jokes, and he's got nerve. I think our guy definitely does have nerve. That's a great word for him. Okay. So what's his first name going to be? It's something Sharp. So his name is Sharp. Something Sharp. I said. And something Sharp. I said, and she's given this whole, big introduction. Yakuza Captain 18, and she who lays claim to the 5th district Shinjuku of the great city Tokyo, and he just says, some kind of curt response, so it's something like, what's a good name, I'll just put James in, whatever he says, James Sharp, I said, troublesome Tanuki, he makes a joke out of it, you know, some kind of wise crack. And you know, the great thing, one thing to keep in mind whenever you're writing a funny line, potentially a funny line or a quick comeback, is that you don't need to really nail it down. You probably never will nail it down the first time in the first draft, but that's fine because we've got, you know, hundreds of pages yet to write, and somewhere along the way, somewhere in that time, it'll come to you. You'll just go, oh yeah, I know what that line is, and then it'll be the perfect line. Obviously, this doesn't happen in real life. You know, we don't get the opportunity to think for as long as we'd like to about, you know, that great comeback. And there was that great Seinfeld episode where this was explored, this kind of thing was explored. Yeah, so that's the point, right? Troublesome tanuki. Or maybe you know, professional tanuki. It's something like that. Troublesome tanuki. I said, and maybe he does, you know, show his nerve, his backbone by having a sip of soup. I said, taking a spoon of soup myself. You know, spooning my own soup. Troublesome tanuki. Okay, that's kind of it. That's basically the page. The green bird. So this green bird, you know what? What is it? Is a tavern a place where you can get soup as well? When I say tavern, I'm kind of thinking, you know, a place with, you know, sort of wooden benches. I'm thinking very Viking kind of a place. But you know, what is a But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a tavern. What is a tavern? I'm just going to search this online now because I've written the page. Okay, the page is written, so I have a bit of leeway now to do a little bit of research. So let's just find out. Can you know, get food in a tavern? Guys, let me know if the music is too loud again. I don't want a repeat of yesterday when, you know, hardly anyone could hear me. So I'm just going to turn this down a little bit more just in case. 1 second. There we go. Hopefully everything's fine. The problem with going live and doing these things live is that you can't really check that everything is there. Okay, so a tavern. Yeah, I think you can. Okay, so you can definitely get food in a tavern if you call a place a tavern. That said, maybe we'll make this place. If she's a Yakuza captain, obviously she's going to have access to a lot of cash. She probably owns this place. She's the only one in it. You know, it's shut down just for her, so it's probably going to be an upscale restaurant, the Green Bird restaurant. And I can go back and fill that in. But let's just read through from, you know, maybe here and just see how this flows. So I know why you're here. This is the there was also a slip of paper inside. Its message had been written in cursive hand and read as follows: I know why you're here, Mr. Sharp. I know what you're looking for. Be at the Green Bird Tavern at 7 p.m. P.S. Bring the puzzle box. Right, yeah, we've got to figure out how we're going to introduce that puzzle box. I rushed to the window and looked down at the street. I saw pedestrians all sorts going about their business, but nothing stood out as odd. Nobody looking up at my window, nobody in the adjacent building looked across into my room. I went to the door, checked the hallway, nothing there either. Turning back to my room, nothing seemed out of place. I'd left the do not disturb sign on the door, and I knew the maid hadn't been in because the bed was still unmade from the morning. I checked the closet. Nothing appeared disturbed. My single duffel bag still had everything that it should have. Nothing appeared out of place. My single everything should have. Yeah, I'm not sure about this word. Nothing appeared out of order. What? Because I want to keep this line, but I can't repeat it. If I say nothing appeared out of place, my single duffel bag still had everything that it should have. Nothing out of place or missing. Nothing. Yeah, I think this has to be that. It just doesn't read right. Nothing appeared out of place. My single duffel bag still had everything that it should have. You know, nothing was missing. Nothing was missing. Something like that maybe is better. I rang down to reception to see if anyone had called the room today, but nobody had. I paced back and forth, staring at the open package. Who was this person? How did they know who I was? And more importantly, how did they know why I was here? And who the hell sends a puzzle box anyway? Not Sabrina, that was for sure. She hated puzzles, and besides, she'd have written the message in blood. The alarm clock showed just after 6:15 in the evening. I knew there was a flight back to London at 7:10. If I hurried, I could make the airport in time. No, I'd spent too long getting to this point. If I missed the opportunity now, I'd never get it back again. But I couldn't take any chances. I called down to the concierge and had them order me a taxi to the Greenbird Tavern. To the Greenbird... I'm going to say that this is a restaurant. Yeah, I'm going to say that. The Greenbird Restaurant. Then I grabbed the puzzle box and headed out. So I'm just going to say the Greenbird Restaurant at 7 p.m. I just think restaurant is going to be more in keeping with the characters themselves. Okay, in the back of the taxi I examined the puzzle box. It was made of black onyx, hard and cool to the touch. The tiles on the lid were metallic, and although the picture was scrambled, it seemed to be some kind of landscape, no way to tell where though. I tried sliding around the tiles, but I was too flustered to have any patience. How the hell had someone found me? Damn, I cursed, and the taxi driver shot me a look in the rearview mirror. I gave him a dirty look back and asked him if he had a problem. Yeah, maybe that should just be dialogue. You know, I gave him a dirty look back. Problem? I asked. Problem? I said. Traffic's bad. He said meekly, and then gave a reason. I told him to step on it. Yeah. I gave him a dirty look. Problem? Problem? I said. The problem, I said. Traffic's bad. He said meekly. I was going to put replied, but I don't think that's really the best thing to do. Try and keep the said verbs very simple. Is usually the best way to go. Certainly editors generally tell you to do the same thing, so I'm just applying that here. Okay, I told him to step on it. We moved through the streets of Shinjuku. This was the red light district. I knew lots of gambling, prostitution, low lives this side of town. I know, but we had that. Amanda Panda Sensei has kindly told me that this might be a little pushing the envelope there. Maybe Shinjuku isn't that bad, but that's something that I will investigate more, and you guys in the chat can all help me out with that. And please do, send in suggestions and help me out with this writing as we go. So the kind of people I deal with a little too much for my liking. Then again, that's how I met Sabrina. So I like the idea already that we've constantly been reinforcing the idea of this ex-wife. We're constantly alluding to her, and then the bit that we wrote today, as we're coming up to it, it really does start to come together quite nicely. So I turned my attention back to figuring out who was messing with me. It didn't make any sense. Nobody could have known I was coming to Japan. I planned everything meticulously, right down to the cover idea I'd made. Yeah, again, this, we're not sure, if that's what that is, but let's keep going. The taxi pulled up about 30 minutes after we'd left the hotel. The driver told me the Green Bird was about halfway down the bustling street to our left. I couldn't miss it, but I walked straight past the place without giving it a second glance. I wasn't about to just walk into some random place without checking. Some random restaurant, we said, right? Restaurant. Okay, without checking out the place first. I had no idea who or what I was dealing with, and if things went to hell, like they often did, I needed to know I could get out quickly. There was an alleyway beside the tavern, beside the restaurant. We've changed this to restaurant, you see. This is why you need to always go back and reread what you did. Beside the restaurant, it had a fire escape going up to the roof and a couple of dumpsters that I could smell all the way from the street. There was a homeless guy slumped against one of the dumpsters with a needle sticking out of his arm. Nobody seemed to care. I checked my watch. It was 5 to 7, 5 minutes before I'd been told to be here. That I was walking into a trap was obvious, but I'd come too far now. 3 years looking for it. Again, we don't know why he's in Japan, but we'll come back and we will figure that out. 3 years looking for it. I couldn't back off now. So I took a breath and walked into the Green Bird and straight into a trap. Green Bird, straight into a trap. The place was empty, except for one table in the middle of the room. The woman sitting at it looked up at me as I entered. Okay, so this is what we wrote today. This is the page that we wrote today. Let's see, does it carry on nicely? The place was empty except for one table in the middle of the room. The woman sitting at it looked up at me as I entered. She was young and good looking, had those long lashes and sticky red lips. Had those long black lashes. Whatever. I'm thinking like very geisha is in my mind. Had those long lashes and sticky red lips. She smiled. I should have run straight out of there. Oh, was that Professor Hansen? Thank you so much for following. Really great to have you. Let me know what you think. I'm just reading through what we've done today, what I've written today. She was young and good looking, had those long lashes and sticky red lips. She smiled. I should have run straight out of there, but two bruisers in cheap black suits stepped up behind me and blocked the entrance. The woman checked her watch and smiled her red lips. She motioned to the seat opposite her, and it really wasn't a question. I glanced at the fire door in the far right of the room. I might not have been as big as the bruisers behind me, but I was sure as hell faster. I thought about the homeless guy slumped against the dumpster. No doubt these two would trip over him if they tried to chase me. I took the seat, but said nothing. I joined the woman at the table. Okay, that's better. I joined the woman at a table, but said... Okay, I joined them but said nothing. There's a she. Okay, this should just be a she said. She said, speaking in Japanese, like she knew I could understand her, about a troublesome tanuki who plagued a farmer for days on end. I think this wants to be like an honest farmer. Who plagued an honest farmer, because again, that's how she sees herself. She is the farmer in this story. Okay, we're using this story as a parable because that's what's going to help us. That's the subtext, right? Whenever we're writing dialogue, remember that, guys. Dialogue should be filled with subtext. That's how you write great dialogue. You set up the. You need to set the scene and you need to set the context. But once you load that context, with two bruisers in the background and all these mysterious packages and this guy looking for a way out in case things go wrong, the fact that this is a spy thriller, we've built the context so heavily, we've loaded it so well that now everything that the characters say, it's the subtext that will deliver that impact to the reader. Okay, so I joined the woman at a table but said nothing. There's a story we tell children, she said, speaking in Japanese like she knew I could understand her, about a troublesome tanuki who plagued an honest farmer for days on end. One day the farmer laid a trap and caught the tanuki. He tied the tanuki up and told his wife not to untie it before he got back from the market and made a soup. Cry and cry did the tanuki to be let free. The farmer's wife was kind and took pity on the little creature. On the little creature. But no sooner did she untie it did the tanuki kill her and chop her into pieces and make a soup out of her. The tanuki then shapeshifted into the form of the farmer's wife, and when the farmer came home, the tanuki fed him the soup. Okay. I hope none of you guys are eating. Okay. The woman... And then we don't know how she gets this waiter to come out of the kitchen, but obviously that's what needs to happen. And when the farmer came home, the tanuki fed him the soup. The woman snapped her fingers, and from the kitchen came a waiter who put 2 bowls of soup in front of us. The woman smiled at me. Go ahead, she said. And that line, go ahead, is just filled with subtext. It's like, we've alluded to this ex-wife before throughout the 4 pages that we've written. And now this woman has just told a story about, a tanuki feeding someone his wife, and now she's saying, go ahead, eat the soup that I've just served you. I mean, that's beautiful stuff. That is beautiful stuff. Am I wrong, guys, or am I right? I think I'm right. Anyway, I like it. We can always change it later, but I like this scene, how it's developed. Okay, so the woman snapped her fingers, and from the kitchen came a waiter who put 2 bowls of soup in front of us. The woman smiled at me. Go ahead, she said. I glanced at the fire door again. That's a children's story, I asked her, but my feet were dancing under the table. Professor Hansen agrees with me. He likes this. He likes this scene. Thank you so much. Okay, I glanced at the fire door again. That's a children's story, I asked her, but my feet were dancing under the table. Then I took a... why is this the? That's right. Then she... Oh no, so that was a she, not a the. Okay. But my feet were dancing under the table. The woman took a spoon of soup and licked her lips. I guess she didn't appreciate my charms. My charms apparently had no effect on her. It's something like that. My name is Kyori Matsumoto, Yakuza Captain 18, and she who lays claim to the 5th District Shinjuku of the great city Tokyo. Which is a great, I mean, that's just, you know, that's the money line, isn't it? That's when the camera zooms in the film and we just get this, boom, this impact of a great character. And then he's going to continue along, our protagonist. You know, he's got nerve, he's got backbone. You know, James Sharp, I said, I don't know if his name is going to be James, but, you know, let's actually put that in brackets so we know to, I'm sure I can find a better name for that. Alliteration is always good. So maybe it's like Simon Sharp, something like, I don't know. But James Sharp, I said, spooning my own soup. Troublesome tanuki, or professional tanuki. You know, and that just shows that line actually. You know what's good about that is that that's showing off his own smarts, his own wit. It's saying, gosh, it's getting really quite bright here in London. What a nice day. But that's just showing off his wit. It's saying he's saying a lot of things with that line. You know, troublesome tanuki. He's saying, you know, I'm quick-witted. He's also saying, I'm not afraid of you. He's also saying, I understand exactly what you're alluding to. I get the story. I understand the subtext. And again, he's saying it in 2 words. So that's the kind of dialogue that you want to write, that we're all aiming to write. And this can be improved immensely, I'm sure. I'm sure you guys are going to help me do that as we carry on. But that's good enough for today. That's day 4, page 4 has been written. It took a little while to get started today for sure. You know, I had that whole idea about the bar, and then and look what it's developed into. Look at that. So, you know, we all go through these days where it just absolutely doesn't seem to click. But if you keep going, if you keep pushing, usually something does come out. Look, we've been going for almost 2 hours today, whereas day 1 was only 1 hour. Thank you again. Professor Hansen says, great job, flowing super well. Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going okay. There are definitely some loose ends that we need to sort of tie up and strengthen. But hey, I have no idea what this novel is even about. I'm just pantsing my way through it. There's no outline, but hopefully maybe on the weekend I'm going to be able to, you know, give this a think, and then I'll come back and we'll all have a think, and we'll see if we can all add to this story and make it better. So, okay, day 4, page 4. Tomorrow we are back, 7 a.m. GMT, that's British time. So whatever that is, wherever you guys are, please do join in. Massive thank you to everyone who has joined in the chat today and who has sent so many messages of support. I really, really do appreciate everything. This channel is just starting out, so please do, you know, like, subscribe, follow, tell your friends, follow on Facebook, follow on YouTube. We don't have a Facebook yet. Follow on YouTube as well, and you know, tell me how I can make it better. Send in your own problems with writing, your own things. What are you writing? Let's start this. Let's start building this community together. So I will see you guys tomorrow, 7 a.m. for page 4, when I continue to write before your eyes.